Hi, good morning everyone. Welcome to the Dolphin Centre. Thank you for joining us. Now, we are going to be giving these guys their breakfast today. Now, as you can see by the fact that everyone is pretty much next to me, they are fairly hungry. There is a reason for that. These guys had their dinner at 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon, so it's been a while since they've had some food. So hopefully everyone should come out and say hello. Now this is our offshore reef aquarium. So somewhere in here, I haven't seen her yet, there is a beautiful little brown stingray. She's only about this big. She is a painted masked ray, and she's the only animal in this aquarium that doesn't actually live in Bambury. She shouldn't really be in here, she's a little cheat. She should be over with our turtles there because she is a tropical species. We do have her in WA, but she lives much, much further up north around Exmouth. The reason she is in here, when she was over there with our turtle, you may have seen we've got 7 baby loggerheads in there. Every time, here she is, every time she would bury to have a nap, apparently she looked like leftover food because they were nipping at her. She wasn't very happy about it. So we got her out, got her used to colder water, popped her in here, and this is where she lives. Now everyone else you are going to find here, although not really in our bay. Our bay is quite shallow for most of these guys to live. They might come for a visit, but to find them you'll have to go off the coast, nice deep water. Now we're going to start with these pellets. Now even though they are super duper hungry, you're going to notice they're pretty much going to completely ignore them. There is a reason for that. That is their version of fruit and vegetables for the day. And it's far too healthy for them to be wasting their appetite on, because they know the better tasting stuff is coming next. However, like I said, after this feed, 2 o'clock, and then they have to wait all the way till 11 a.m. tomorrow. So right around when you guys have your dinner this evening, those pellets are going to start to look pretty tasty, because it's the only food they will have left. Now you're going to notice they definitely prefer this. We give them a mixture. Thank you. Little shower for the front row. Now, we give them squid, prawns, cockles, herring, and whitebait. So there is a little bit of everything for everyone. Out of all of these animals, there is one fussy eater in here, never who anyone expects. Chubby boy, smiley face, yellow spines. Right down the bottom there, that is Charlie. Charlie is a porcupine pufferfish. Now, being a pufferfish, Charlie only eats crustaceans. So out of all of this food we're popping in, Charlie's only going for the prawns. However, as you can see by the size of him, he manages to find most of them. Now we're going to pop some food down nice and low, and this is for our benthic species. Now, benthic just means bottom dweller. So out in the wild, it is all of the guys who would live right down on the ocean floor. Here we go. Yes, you have to go down to the net, darling. So this grey girl with black markings that's chasing my net about, this is Janet. Janet is my Port Jackson shark. Now, Janet is about 4.5 coming up to 5 years old. She's just under 1 metre in length, but she's still got a good 3-4 years of growth ahead of her. She can live to be about 40, be fully grown around about 8-9, and she'll get up to about 1.5 metres. Now, Port Jackson's a little bit like the Staffy of the shark world, so as well as getting longer, she's going to get wider. She's going to be a little powerhouse of a shark. Now, if you pay attention to her, when she finds bits of food she wants to eat, she's going to swim right over the top of it and stop. Living on the ocean floor, her mouth is underneath her. So all she does is she swims across, finds animals that are trying to hide from her, swims over the top of them and sucks them up to have a snack. Now the beautiful flat guy next to her with all of those gorgeous patterns, he is one of my absolute favourite animals, and there is 2 reasons. First one is he is incredibly friendly. We have to get in here every Tuesday, wetsuit, oxygen, jump in to clean the glass. First thing you do, once you get off the ladder, you turn around, big guy there will swim right up the front of you, you can wrap your arms around him and give him back scratches. Very fond of a little cuddle and a tickle. Now the other reason I love him is because he confuses most people as to what he is. So 9 times out of 10, people just think he is a stingray. Sometimes people ask me if he is a shark, specifically wobbegong or shovelnose are the ones I've had. If you are from anywhere in the southwest, you might know one or both of his names, because he does have 2. So he's officially known as a southern fiddler ray or a banjo shark. However, he isn't a stingray, and he also isn't a shark, so the names don't help. He is cousins to both of them, so he's in that same family called elasmobranchs, but he is a completely different species known as a guitar fish. Now, wherever he is, if you have a look at his body shape, kind of makes sense, he looks like a guitar. I always think of a hybrid, so body of a stingray, tail of a shark. He is still really young, 3.5 years old, has lots of growing to do. Being a male, if he hits his full size, he will be longer than I am, so about 1.69 meters. Now the 2 beautiful grey girls here, the one facing away from me is Pebbles and the one facing me is Bam Bam. They are our 2 bamboo sharks. Now they do look almost identical, I know. There is a trick to telling them apart, and that is Pebbles is the one with the little white dot next to one of her eyes. They are fully grown adult females, so they're only about 1 meter in length. The males get a little bit bigger, about 1.2 meters, but still not much. They are also bottom-dwelling species, so they're going to swim over their food as well because they've got mouths underneath them. They also have what look like little whiskers. They are sensory barbels, and that's what helps them to find food because they detect motion. So they will actually scrape them across the ocean floor so that they can find the animals hiding from them. Now bamboo sharks, they are also a little bit like chickens. So all of your bottom-dwelling sharks, they do not have live births like the big guys and like us. They actually lay eggs. And bamboo sharks, they like to practice laying their eggs just like chickens do. So about once every 2 weeks, both of these girls will lay an egg. Now I don't have any on this side, but there is a whole heap of them on the other side. So right next to the big crater, you'll see lots of little oval shapes. They look like they've got yellow algae seaweed on them. That is bamboo shark eggs. Now there is never anything alive inside them. We only have females, so they're never fertilized, but they will still lay them about once every 2 weeks. Now what we do, we leave them in here because the Port Jackson and our lobsters like to eat them for a snack. Now it sounds kind of gross, but it's just like you having eggs. It's a really good source of protein. Now, just behind Janet, right in between the rocks at the bottom there, she might be blocking it from view, there is a black and yellow and white guy. He is my snowflake moray eel. Now, we do get him in Bunbury only for a couple of months of the year. It's too cold the rest of the time. He doesn't come out very often. He's nocturnal, so he'd much rather be asleep, but he must be hungry today to come out and say hello. Now we're going to talk about some of the fish we've got, and we'll start with the bigger guys because they are the ones that people like to bump into in the wild, especially if they have fishing rods in their hands. So the 2 big silver guys here, they are our silver trevallies, or skippies, as most of you may know them. Long skinny silver guy swimming about behind me amongst the rocks here. He is my whiting, so he's the one you get in a fish and chip shop commonly. Right round the curve, because she never comes and hangs out with me, probably staring at the dolphin skeleton, there will be a big girl with blue sparkly dots. That is my pink snapper, and I can just see his tail, big silvery black guy with the black band through his eye. He is what we call an endemic species, so the only place in the entire world he lives is the southwest of WA. And he's also apparently my tastiest one. So if you don't know who he is, you might have had him for dinner. He is our western jewfish, or our jewie. Now the jewie is a really good example of how we look after fish in WA. So because he only lives here in this small area, and because lots of people like to eat him, he's heavily protected when it comes to fishing. So if you want to go and catch yourself, you're only allowed 1 per person per day. Now Chunky Charlie here. So like I mentioned earlier, Chunky Charlie is a porcupine pufferfish. He is one of my favourites, it's that smiley face. He's very good at selfie. Now, Charlie is not puffed up, he is just chubby, but he does puff up. Happens about once or twice a month. A human has never caused it, although many children have tried. The culprit is always the big lobster that's hiding in this cave here next to me. Now, we have rock lobsters, western rock lobsters, and they are quite territorial, so they don't like other animals coming into their area. That's their house. Charlie isn't all that clever, so he forgets this quite often. Lobsters with their big long antennas can produce electromagnetic impulses, so if you touch it, it feels like a static shock. So Charlie will try to swim in, the lobster will zap him, he'll be scared, and he wants to be big and scary himself. So it's very simple, puffing up, under 10 seconds. All Charlie here has to do, take a big old gulp of water in, fill up his stomach, and he is double his normal size. Now his species, they have a little extra superpower, which is all of those yellow spines you see. So they're part of his skeleton. So as Charlie's puffing up, the pressure forces all of them to stand up. So he turns into a big spiky ball. Now out in the wild, that's amazing. That's a really good defense mechanism. Because anything trying to eat Charlie, you're going to see all of those spines and think he is venomous. Now he isn't, but it's a pretty good trick to have up your sleeve. Now one of my favourite things to watch in here, once he's realised there's no real danger, he wants to get back down to normal. Also very simple, but takes a bit longer, about 45 seconds. Now all he has to do, fill himself up with water, he just has to fart and burp it all out. So you will watch him go completely flat in the middle as he pushes bubbles out of each end. Now a fish that you probably won't want to bump into out in the ocean, right down the bottom there's that orange grumpy looking girl. I was waiting for one of them to come join us. Now we have 3 of them in here, and they are not stonefish. The reason they look almost identical is because they are their cousins. So they're called western scorpion cods, also an endemic species, only live in the southwest of WA, and we are super lucky to have them because they're about the 5th most venomous fish in the ocean. So right along their dorsal fin, which is that fin on her back, she has 12 retractable needle-like spines. She is only going to use them in self-defense and as a last resort. They haven't done it today, but often all 3 of them like to come and sit right down the bottom here for feedings. The sharks swim into them, banjo swims into them, the fish do. They can sting everyone in here apart from the lobsters. And in the 3 years I've worked here, they've never stung anything. Once they're annoyed enough, they get up, they swim off, and they go sit somewhere else. What happens? Pardon me? What happens to us is usually someone's out, they're diving, they're climbing over the rocks, and they don't see them, so they tread on them. Now in that instance, they're going to protect themselves, they want to get away, shoot out a spine or 2 and inject venom. Now the kind of good news is, it starts to hurt really badly, really quickly. And the reason that's good is because it makes you lift off of them, so they're not going to get too much venom into you. What you're going to do is go off and go into the hospital to get some painkillers, and she's going to go and sleep somewhere else. Now, unless you are out diving, probably will never bump into one. They don't come close to the shore like stonefish do. And also, that's as active as they get. So she isn't coming and looking for you. She's what we call an ambush predator. So she can change colour to camouflage, blend into her surroundings, lay in wait, and they only really move to jump out and grab some food. Now, I was hoping my lobsters were going to come out. This big guy has been out every day for the past 2 weeks, but he doesn't seem so keen today. Now, like I said, they are western rock lobsters. Once I've moved out the way, you'll get a good view of him. He's our biggest guy. He's Dwayne the rock lobster. He's about 16. Dwayne is about this big, so he's a decent size. Still got a good bit of life ahead of him. They can live to be 25 years old. There is one about half his size, that's Kevin. Kevin's 10. And then we've got 2 littlies that don't have names yet. They're about 4 years old. Now, the other 3 will not come out. The reason for that is they are in the process of shedding. So shedding is how they grow. Because they've got that hard shell, they can't just get bigger like we do. Once a year, they will hide away, anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks, stop eating, and they grow a whole new shell underneath the one they have. Now, when they can't fit anymore, they break their way free, and then they wait for a week or 2 for the new shell to harden up. So Dwayne here, he did that about 2 weeks ago. He's out now, he's been eating for the past 2 weeks, but for the first week, we had to double our food intake. He hadn't eaten for 10 weeks previously, so as soon as he came out, he was picking fights with all of the sharks. Now, I do have one other shark. I don't think she's going to come and join us. She is a cat shark. She is nocturnal by nature, so usually only pops out with a 2 o'clock feed a couple of days a week. However, you might be able to find her. I find kids are quite good at this because they're the right height. She is a rusty red colour, same colour as the algae on these rocks, and she looks kind of like a chubby snake with fins. Now she also has black and white spots all over her body, and the reason she's hard to find is because she weaves amongst the rocks to have a nap. So if you're looking in the rocks and you see a spotty bit, that is her. Now that is it for these guys. I'm going to pop a little bit more in and then I'm going to move myself out the way. Feel free to come up and have a good look at everyone, especially Dwayne here. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you.